Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 25 in our quest to become praying parents for our children. And today's topic is finding the perfect mate. Finding the perfect mate, and it's to do with marriage and your child, your children. Praying that they find the one that God intends them to be with. One that's going to look after them, one that's going to take care of them, one that's not going to commit infidelities or want multiple marriages or have that spirit of divorce within them or all sorts of stuff. It's praying against those for your children, no matter what age they are, from when they're in the womb, from before the womb, before they're conceived. Praying that when they come of age, that they make the right decisions. Leading up to their marriage. Marriage is not just a day. Marriage is not just the wedding where everybody's happy and there's food on the table and grand dresses and tables and stuff like that. It's your life with your spouse and ensuring that you two are aligned in your thinking, especially when it comes to your spiritual thinking, and ensuring that you two have that relationship with God, both as individuals and as a couple. So we need to pray for our children's marriage and their spirituality in choosing the right spouse. We need to pray that they do it at the right time, that they don't rush into it, that they don't leave it too late to a point where they can't have children or something similar to that effect, if that's what they want to go with. I mean, God's a God of wonders, so that last one could be mute, but still, leaving it a bit late or anything like that. So we need to pray for that for our children, and we need to encourage them when they get a bit older as well, to be able to pray for that, to be able to think wisely about the decisions that they're making, especially in looking for the spouse, making sure that they're not going about it the wrong way, that they're not acting in a loose way, that they're not giving out their gifts before the correct time. Proverbs 19:21 says, "There are plans in a man's heart, nevertheless the Lord's counsel that will stand." And this is what we need to instill within our children's lives, that no matter what ideas they have, no matter what ideas we have as parents, is ultimately up to God and the plan that He has for our lives. We can map everything out, but if that's not the way that God intends us to go, that's not the way that we're going to go. And we need to get ourselves to a point where, and get our children to a point where we are open and willing to accept what God has for us. We might not always understand where He's leading us, but we need to go where He's leading us, and that goes especially sure for marriage, which is a lifelong commitment, lifelong, once you get married, commitment. So what do we need to do? We need to consult God. We need to talk to God. We need to get an understanding from God about what we need to do or what we can do as parents to aid in our children finding the correct spouse. And the reason why I say that, which may sound like you're trying to be too inner, is that parents in general want to be involved in that decision, because they don't want their children marrying just any old guy that's not going to look after or take care of their precious children. But we need to go about it in the right way. We can't just intervene and take control of our child's life, because what we might have planned for them, or what kind of guy or girl we think is suitable for our children, might not be suitable for them. And that's why we need to pray. We need to consult God and ask, what can we do as parents in order to aid our children in their decision for marriage, in a spouse. And when I say that, I mean God could just be asking us to be patient and wait for your child to come to you before you give your opinion, or it could be that you have to be proactive and go to your child and just, I don't know, flag up a few things that may happen, or to sit down with your child from when they're old enough to understand and pray with them that they make the right decisions, that they listen to God's lead, encourage them, as opposed to choosing for them, not being judgmental about the spouse that they pick, because even if they pick someone that you know is not necessarily on the right path or there with Christ, you don't know what God has in plan for their life. And that's why we cannot make the decisions. We need to leave it up to Christ. And that's why we need to also encourage our children to leave it up to Christ, because they might see the same thing, like, oh no, he's not where I am with Christ, so therefore I'm not going to get with him. And that's a fair point. I agree with that. But that doesn't mean to cut them off, because you don't know what God's going to do for them. And God may speak to them. God may speak into their life and they turn to Christ, and there you have it. But if you cut them off and you've gone away, that's not going to be necessarily easy to then come back to and be like, oh well, yada yada yada, let's go, type thing. So it's just basically keeping an open mind is what I'm trying to say. We need to keep an open mind and be able, or be willing, sorry, to listen to God's voice, pray, and then wait to hear for His voice. Pray again, keep praying. Prayer and supplication in all things, guys. The book also said, if your child is already divorced, pray for all brokenness to be healed and that there will be no more divorce in his or her future. And that's one thing I want to touch on as well. That divorce happens. Don't have to agree with it. I'm not saying that it's right, but it is so much now, more than ever, in our church than it is in the world as well. And so it happens. Not everybody that you run into is going to be clean and fresh off the lot or whatever it may be. And so we need to, if your child has gone through divorce, you need to pray for your child that they're not broken inside, that God heals them, and allows them to be open and willing to accept anyone that God may put in his or her path in the future. Likewise, your child may fall for someone that's been divorced before, and you need to pray. Ask God, is this the right decision? Is this the plan that you have for my child's life? Get your child to pray. Is this the plan that God has for their life? And get an answer for that prayer. Don't rush into it and think that God's just going to heal it because you're already in the situation now. Think about what you're doing and pray about it. And make the decisions based on a biblical perspective. So your task is going to be, a two-part task, depending on how big your children are. And it's to, if they're of age already, or old enough to understand, should I say, not of age, but old enough to understand, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever it may be, I don't know. Sit down with your child and speak to them about marriage, about how they should be conducting themselves from now, about how they should conduct themselves during the dating process, the courtship process. What they should be, not what they should, yeah, what they should be looking for in a spouse, from the point of view of, from a biblical point of view. And the second part, which you can do if your child isn't of age, but also if your child is of age, it's something that you do by yourself as well, is make a list of the positive traits that you want your child's spouse to have, and then pray for those traits. Is what you need to do as well. So that's a two-part task. If your child is of age to understand, sit down with them and talk to them about it and pray with them at the end. And if they're not of age, you can write a list of the positive traits that you want to have in your child's life and pray about those. So yeah, we're just going to pray now. We just bow our heads. Lord, unless your plan is for our children to remain single, I pray that you will send the perfect marriage partner for them. Send the right husband or wife at the perfect time and give them a clear leading from you as to who it is. I pray that our children will be submissive enough to hear your voice when it comes time to make a marriage decision, and that they will make the decision based on what you are saying and not just fleshly desire. I pray that they will trust you with all their heart and lean not on their own understanding, that they will acknowledge you in all their ways, so that you will direct their path. Proverbs 3:5-6. Prepare that person who will make the perfect spouse for them. Help our children to understand the difference between simply falling in love and knowing for certain that this is the person with whom God wants them to spend their life with. If they become attracted to someone who they shouldn't marry, I pray that you, Lord, will cut off the relationship. Help them to realize that unless you are at the center of the marriage, it will never stand. Unless you bless it, it won't be blessed. For your word says, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Psalms 127 verse 1. I pray that you will build the marriage around which their house is established. When they do find the right one to marry, I pray that person will be a godly and devoted servant of yours, who loves you and lives your way, and will be like your son or daughter, and will be a blessing to all other family members. Once they are married, let there be no divorce in their future. May there never be mental, emotional, or physical abuse of any kind, but rather mental, emotional, and physical unity that is never touched by division. I pray for their deliverance from any spirit of divorce, separation, or disunity that would attempt to drive a wedge into their relationship. Give them each a strong desire to live in fidelity and remove any temptation to infidelity. May they have one mate for life, who is also their closest friend. May they be mutually loyal, compassionate, considerate, sensitive, respectful, affectionate, forgiving, supportive, caring, and loving towards one another all the days of their life. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thanks for joining us again, guys, and we will see you tomorrow. I'll give you a little preview. Tomorrow's title is Living Free of Unforgiveness. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.